Hey, welcome to your first hang gliding lesson. The goal of this lesson is to first teach you how a real hang glider is controlled by pilots moving their body weight left and right to bank and forward and back to control speed. Next, we're going to show you how to position your body and move your hand controllers in the simulator to do the same. You're also going to learn how to change your viewpoint from the pilot's view to one that's behind the glider to help you better visualize how the glider reacts to your body controller movements. Finally, you're going to learn how to go upright for takeoff and landing, so your feet can be used to run when launching from a cliff or a hillside, or when landing after a great flight. We're now at Ed Levin Flight Park near San Francisco, California. Here we have a variety of launch sites suitable for all levels of pilots. Today we'll start out in a simulator we've set up here, and then move to the bunny hill in the next lesson. Most hang gliders are controlled by moving the pilot's body, which is suspended in a harness from the center of the hang glider's airframe. Whether the pilot is upright for launching or landing, or laying prone and enclosed in the harness, the principle's the same. The pilot's weight is shifted through pushing on parts of the aluminum frame called the control bar. The offset pilot weight causes the glider to speed or slow down, or to bank to the left or the right. The Freeflight Experience uses the position of a pair of VR hand controllers and the position of the head-worn VR display to simulate pilot body movement. To see how this works in the game, you'll practice basic control movements and see how the pilot's body in the game responds. Before we get to practice weight shift, you'll need to learn some basic game controls. How to change your view, position yourself so the glider's control bar appears in the correct place, and how to freeze and unfreeze the simulation of your glider. The view from behind the wing, like you're seeing now, is more comfortable for many, especially those new to VR. The visual sense of movement is easier to tolerate when you have something like a glider in front of you to focus on. However, hang gliders aren't really flown from behind, so you'll want to eventually get comfortable with using the pilot's view. Look down and you'll see a pair of hand controllers, similar to the ones that you use with your VR headset. On the left controller, there are two domed buttons that you can reach with your thumb, labeled Y and X. These buttons are used in Freeflight Experience to change your viewpoint. Press the Y button and you'll be transported to the pilot's perspective, hanging under the glider. Now, press the X button. You'll return to the chase view. Next, we'll adjust your hand and head position to match the virtual pilot's. Please press the Y button to return to the pilot's perspective. From this position, you should be able to see hand controller images that follow the movement of your real controllers in your hands. If you don't see these now, press in on the small joystick that sits next to your right thumb, like it was a button. This joystick button is pressed whenever we wish to start or stop the game. When the simulation is running, pressing it once will freeze the movement of your glider, cause the controller graphics to appear, and will bring up a menu on your left hand and a laser on your right controller that you can use to pick menu items with. Just point it at the desired menu item and pull the trigger on the right controller. Notice that the buttons and triggers on the controllers are labeled with their function in the game. Pressing the controller again will unfreeze your glider. You should try this now. Notice that when the controllers are hidden, the glider gently rocks as you move the controllers. When the controllers are visible, the glider is frozen and you can pick items from the menu. Please press the joystick button until you can see the controllers before going to the next step. Next, we'll learn how to reset your view position in the simulator. If you look at your left controller, you'll notice the trigger is labeled Reset View. Pulling this trigger in makes the direction you're looking become the forward direction of the game. The height of your head defines the fully lying down or prone position for the virtual pilot. This recentering and resetting prone should be done before every flight by sitting upright in your chair, looking straight ahead and slightly upward, and then pulling the left trigger. Finally, we'll align your controllers with the virtual base tube. If the controllers aren't visible to you in the game, press the right joystick once and the controllers will appear. you'll see 4 large white arrows floating in front of you. If the controllers appear forward of the base bar, you'll want to move them backward by pointing your laser at the arrow facing rearward and pulling the right controller trigger. You can move the controller forward by pressing the forward pointing arrow. The goal is to line up the controllers forward and backward with the base bar. It's okay if they don't line up vertically. When flying prone, we should hang from the glider as low as possible without dragging our chest on the base tube. Use the up and down arrows so that your face is only 6 to 12 inches above the base bar. The game uses the height of your head-worn display to decide if you're prone, upright, or somewhere in between. It remembers your head height when you pulled the left trigger, and whenever your head is at this height or lower, the pilot in the game will be fully prone. To go upright for launch or landing, you must stand up from your chair after having set the prone height when seated. If you're in the pilot's view when you stand, your perspective will shift and your viewpoint will move toward the sail and away from the base bar. If you're in the chase view, you'll see the pilot go upright and their hands move from the base bar to the down tubes. Please try this now. As a reminder, to change between first and third person perspective, press the buttons labeled X and Y on the left-hand controller. Okay, now we're ready to see how to control the glider. Try moving both controllers relative to the headset forward or rearward, or both left or right, to see how the pilot's body is moved. The game only cares where the hand controllers are compared to the headset, so you can move your hands or the headset or both. If you find it hard to get the controllers behind the headset, try leaning forward in your chair so that your chin is directly above your knees rather than over your hips. Once you've practiced these movements, try standing up from your chair. Viewing in third person, you'll see the pilot go upright and their hands will move to the down tubes. This provides a stronger flare when it comes time to land, and it's necessary if you wish to land on your feet. This concludes the lesson on basic controls of the game. You should now be familiar with the buttons for changing viewpoint, pausing and restarting the game, recentering your view, and aligning the virtual base tube with the handheld controllers. You should practice moving the controllers using both pilot and rear view until you find these movements natural, as well as the movements to move the pilot between prone and upright. When you're comfortable with these controls and think you're ready for your first flight, pause the simulator with the right joystick button. Go to the pilot's view with the Y button on your left controller and select Main Menu with the laser pointer. When you pull the trigger, you'll go back to the street cafe where you can select Lesson 2.